What do you think is the most important part when playing fighting games? This may sound like a trick question, but just think about it for a second. Fighting games have been around since they became popular during the 90s arcade scene. Many players of different backgrounds would suddenly be on equal footing in the virtual world of games such as Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. And I know what you're probably thinking. Oh, the most important part about fighting games is stringing combos. While yes, nailing your combo strings is definitely an important part of the genre, I don't think that's it. Okay, if not that, then maybe doing your specific inputs correctly to do special moves. That's true, iconic attacks like Ryu's Hadouken is only possible with the classic input quarter circle forward punch. But I don't think that's it either. But if not those, what is the most important part?
Dare to enter the beta. Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where the finest...
Like a diamond, I shine under pressure. But life's been trying me, I learned all my lessons. I realized...
Oh man, who do I want to play? The heart of fighting games is the roster of characters you can choose from. A good FG roster needs a good variety of characters ranging from how they look and how they play. Players love a good solid variety. The fighting game community, or FGC, is a very diverse group of players, all with different motivations. So when thinking about the motivation behind players choosing which characters to play, you'll get answers like, I think my character looks awesome and I like their aesthetic a lot, or the way they move is very satisfying, or even, I saw a player do wicked stuff with this character in gameplay so I want to try replicate it. And on the surface, these appear to be different answers, but if you break each answer down, all they really said was, I think this character is cool. Which is fine, but is this enough for an academic research paper my university has given me? God, I wish it was. Anyway, fighting games are a genre of games that its community are absolutely passionate about. Players get invested in the unique presentation of fighting games as a whole, whether it's characters' gameplay or design. It's just a satisfaction you don't really find in other games. Being able to research this has been nothing but enjoyable, and I can't wait to show you my results in this video. For my research, there were 3 main factors that came up when it came to players choosing who they want to play in these games. The first one we'll talk about is...
We gon' crank it up. Sure thing. Let's dance.
I suffer from defeat, so success is my medicine. Destined for greatness, you know.
Undoubtedly, the most common factor for players choosing characters are their appearance and presentation. The aesthetic appeal of characters seems to have a large influence on players choosing a character to main or play. Aesthetics of characters can be related to their visual design and the way they animate in-game. The way they walk, the way they talk, the way they fight, left, right, good night. Let's break down why the aesthetic and presentations of characters play such a huge role in character choices. To understand the aesthetic appeal of characters, we first need to understand the concept of players identifying with characters. Characters have always played an important role in pretty much all narrative media. We watch and read these stories with characters and how they react to conflict and their different emotions. Things get a little more interesting in the virtual world of gaming, however. Instead of reading or watching away at the events in this narrative unfold before your eyes, games allow you to take control of the protagonist. This is no different in fighting games. And it all starts with the character select screen. Character select screens need to functionally communicate the style of the game, but also present the characters to the player. Like a salesman, a character select screen needs to do its best to sell these characters to a player. Because for most players, this is the first time they are seeing these characters. Everything is taken into consideration. A character's silhouette, their fidget or idle animation, even the way they look at you. And there really is nothing else to it. To be honest, aesthetics have a chokehold on players choosing specific characters throughout different fighting games. Trust me, there is a pattern. Players who like characters with swords, players who like characters with guns, players who like big buff walls of muscle, swift-looking characters who specialize in agility, players who like tiny annoying gremlins, players who like women who really like women, and players who like men. Back to my point. Fighting games give players the chance to select for a character they can identify with, or they could have such a striking visual design that players have no choice but to want to see what this character is made of. As part of my research, I held one-on-one interviews at my university playing through a variety of different fighting game titles to see players' choices and a few other factors that I'll discuss later in the video. It was pretty much as you'd expect. Participants picked characters who they found aesthetically pleasing. What I found interesting was a particular character who was extremely popular amongst the participants. Let's talk about Guilty Gear's own Venom. Venom is a very striking design. Even in a game like Guilty Gear, where everyone is gifted with such incredible sauce, Venom ended up being the most picked character when I turned on Exard, which caught me by surprise. His use of a cue stick, which is typically for a pool table, was such a unique concept, and the way he presented and carried himself makes him very memorable. One participant even said the eye pattern that's on Venom's hair reminds them of a symbol from Zelda, so there's little nitpicks to appreciate and break down. Overall, Venom is a very aesthetically pleasing design, someone non-fighting game players and fighting game players alike can appreciate. Another comment about Venom was his very engaging keep-away play style, which leads perfectly into our next category, which is as some people say, it's time to play the game. We've made it to arguably the core feature, the most important part of the fighting game genre. The fighting! The core gameplay of fighting games has always been the back and forth clash between the two characters' playstyles, so it's important to find a playstyle that fits your preferences. There's not a ceiling too high or a pool too deep, there's a playstyle for everyone of every skill level. But not everyone reads the manual, but that's fine, games were meant to be played, so let's break it all down. 7th of March, 1991. Street Fighter II hit the scene and became a massive success. Street Fighter II, for all of its different strengths, could be discussed extensively. I wanted to focus on the roster of characters. This roster of iconic characters collectively known as the original 8 World Warriors. Ryu, E Honda, Blanka, Guile, Ken, Chun-Li, Zangief, and Dhalsim. This iconic group of 8 characters became the blueprints for the playstyles we see today. With more innovations and new ideas, pretty soon fighting game archetypes and playstyles were fleshed out and clearly defined. With the different archetypes fleshed out for players to try, it was now more important than ever for fighting games rosters to have good playstyle variety. Like an ice cream parlor, every fighting game pretty much needs to have a variety of flavors. Let's talk about the popular flavors. Rewind back to when I briefly mentioned my interviews at uni. An important thing to remember is that most of my participants were not fighting game players, but they did manage themselves. When it came to figuring out their chosen characters' playstyles, some participants were quicker than others. Catching on to design elements, for instance, Merkava from Under Night In-Birth 2 appeared to have a tall and lanky frame with equally skinny arms and legs. So pretty quickly, it was established that Merkava must be a zoner who's preferably supposed to be played at a distance to maximize his potential. The main example I wanted to talk about was a matchup between two participants. The game was Granblue Fantasy vs Rising. The two characters the participants chose were Seox and Nier. These are two very strong characters, so seeing the casual player perspective from these two participants intrigued me. Player 1 soon realized that Seox is fast and very strong, using swift slash attacks to close the distance and destroy the opposition. However, despite Seox being a monster up close, he is put at a major disadvantage at long range, as he has limited tools at a distance, which means characters who have long reach and zoning tools will put him at a big disadvantage. Something Nier can take advantage of. Nier is a puppet character with a relentless offense thanks to her puppet, Death. Not only is Nier able to overwhelm most characters thanks to the help of her puppet, overall her offense can be an absolute nuisance to deal with once she gets going. However, without Death, Nier is a sitting duck and the puppet can be hit once and it's down for a considerable amount of time, meaning Nier is forced to fend for herself without her strongest tools, which can cost her the match. Plus, Nier is a complex character to play, so player 2 had a hard time trying to manage Nier's more difficult playstyle. Both participants found both characters engaging to play. Player 1 stated they loved how approachable Seox was and how straightforward his fighting style is, making it easier to get the hang of the game. They had a lot of fun pressing buttons and doing awesome things on screen, even though they can't recall how they did it. Player 2, however, interestingly said that although Nier was hard, they found a great novelty in trying a high execution character. They find the most exciting aspect of fighting games is learning hard characters and making it work, which is a good mental to have. Overall, both players had different perspectives on approaching fighting games. While one was keen on learning the different complexities of the genre, the other one just wanted to have fun, and that's fine. It's exciting to see players adapt to using a playstyle they find fun, and with more innovative games like 2XKO coming out soon, it'll be very interesting. Watching the tag team meshing of playstyles between the two friends is sure to be exciting to watch as you both work together seamlessly. Or you could end up like this.
Damn, he blew away. I knew we'd win this.
Who's we? We? I did this. What do you mean we?
Anyway. We've covered the aesthetic appeal and engaging playstyles. But what happens when strength overcomes your psyche? What happens when the back and forth no longer matters and you simply want to win? What happens when playing with warriors is no longer enough and you wish to have a taste of the gods? Woo! Meta has been a part of video games in general for a very long time. If your goal is to win, chances are you've become a slave to the meta. Meta exists in all competitive gaming, and always will. And how does the meta affect people's choices and characters? Pro players' opinions, tier lists galore, the frame data, what's plus and what's minus. I'm saying things non-fighting game players do not understand, so allow me to lay all the cards on the table and break down what it means to sell your soul to the tier lists, or remain steadfast in who you enjoy. An important thing to understand first is, what does it mean to have a meta? Meta is an acronym standing for Most Effective Tactics Available, or in this case, Most Effective Characters Available. There's really no way else to put it. In fighting games, some characters are just built alternatively better. These characters that sit at the hierarchy of the fighting game meta, also known as the tier lists, collectively known as top tiers. Now, being a top tier takes different factors into consideration, because not all characters are top tiers for the same reasons. Some top tiers have long combos that last so long, you could get a college degree by the time it's finished. Some top tiers have pressure so relentless, you're holding on to the block button until you're dead from chip damage. Some top tiers have zoning tools so frustrating that fighting games become an annoying bullet hell game. Some characters have special moves that are unblockable, so you have no choice but to hold this. And even more dastardly of all, they're just gonna hit you. Really, really, really hard. Of course, despite the strength of the top tiers, the lower tier characters are still played, but with lower tiers comes major flaws. No archetype suffers from this more than the grappler archetype. Now on the surface, grapplers appear to be very strong. You walk up, grab your opponent, and delete their health bar. So then what's the problem? This. A grappler's damage output is dependent on command grabs, which require you to be right up in your opponent's face. However, grapplers are traditionally very slow, with very few movement options. So how do you deal with stuff like this? You work really hard. Playing the grappler means you not only have to make big brain plays to get in close, you also need turtle patience to bait out any of your opponent's mistakes. But why go through all that trouble when you can just play a top tier and get better results for only a quarter of the effort? It's sad to say, but grapplers have, and traditionally always will be, low tier. Except for King. Now the question is, why wouldn't you play these characters? Like, think about it. These characters are strong. Why wouldn't you pick them? That's what I was asking myself during the interviews, even after telling all my participants which characters were top tiers, the very top of the mountain, and who were bottom tiers, bottom of the barrel. And guess what? They didn't care. Why didn't they care? I was confused. Why didn't they care? Well, as we've already covered, aesthetic and playstyle are a factor. That's obvious. But for every different answer I got when it came to meta, there was one pattern I did notice with all the participants who weren't interested in playing the top tiers. Pride. No, not that kind of pride. The other one. Let me explain. The nature of pride, feeling pride in oneself. Pride is the reasonable self-esteem, the confidence and satisfaction in oneself. To feel pride in oneself, to feel confident in your abilities and skills. In relation to gaming, players have a great sense of pride when it comes to the games they play. Despite games having defined metas, or in this case, fighting games having clearly defined and monstrous top tiers, players still choose to gravitate towards the underdogs of the genre. And you guessed it, it's not just because they like these characters' aesthetic and or playstyle, but they feel a great deal of pride to play characters the meta deems weak. Refusing to be slaves to the meta, these players use low tier characters because they just don't care. If it takes extra work to make these characters, by all means, go ahead and cook. And it's not just casual players who feel this way. There are pro players who specialize in low tier characters and have become very well respected in the community because of it. Snake Eyes, a Street Fighter pro who dedicates his craft to Zangief and has not only found great success with his character, but has even won major tournaments and sets against some of the best players in the world. Uwabami, a Strive Johnny specialist who currently speaking is the #1 Johnny on leaderboards for his mastery of fundamentals and stylish combo game, he's become very well respected amongst the Johnny main community. He has recently been scouted by a team called Newhead, so we'll be seeing him at more tournaments real soon. Kuroda, who had a 1-10 set against Tominaga. Kuroda played Q, a horrendously bad low tier who's is arguably considered the worst character in Third Strike, while Tominaga was playing Makoto. Not only is a direct counter to Q, but is also one of the strongest characters in the game. Not only did Kuroda make an 8-2 matchup look like an even 5-5, but he tied the whole thing 9-9, only to lose in the end. But the fact that he went the distance with Q, even though he lost in the end, his performance that day is all people remember, a testament to his skills and dedication. And that's the video. Man, that's really hard, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. This video was really fun to make. Thank you so much for watching it. It means the world to me. Thanks again for watching, and you have a good one. Peace.